People always say the same thing after something terrible happens. I should have trusted my gut. But what if I told you that sometimes your gut is the only warning you get before something is already inside your house? That feeling, the sudden silence, the prickling at the back of your neck, the quiet voice telling you something is wrong before you have any proof. Most people ignore it. I ignored mine for 3 days. My name is Caleb. I'm 23 years old, and what I'm about to tell you happened in the house I grew up in, while something else was already living there with me. The house had been empty for 2 days before I arrived. My parents, my younger sister, and my grandmother had all driven up to Minnesota for my great-uncle's funeral. They'd left Thursday morning. I was supposed to follow Friday evening after my shift, but my boss called me in for a double, and by the time I got home, it was almost midnight. I pulled into the driveway, killed the engine, and sat there for a moment. I felt it the moment I parked. Not fear, not exactly, just wrong. It was more like an awareness, like the feeling you get when you walk into a room and you know immediately that two people were just arguing, even though they're both smiling at you now. A wrongness underneath the surface of everything. I shook it off. I was tired. I'd worked 11 hours. My brain was fried. I grabbed my bag, went inside, locked the door behind me. The house was dark and quiet and smelled like the cinnamon candle my mom always kept in the entryway. Everything looked exactly as it should. I went to the kitchen, drank a glass of water, and went upstairs to bed. I didn't sleep well. Not because of nightmares. I didn't dream at all. I just kept surfacing from sleep every hour or so, lying there in the dark with my eyes open, listening to the house. Listening for what, I didn't know. At 4 a.m. I finally gave up and just lay there staring at the ceiling until light started showing around the curtains. That morning, Saturday, I noticed the first thing. I went to make coffee and found the back door unlocked. Now, my father is religious about locking doors. Every door, every window, every time. It's practically a ritual with him. He walks the entire house before bed, every single night, checking every latch. The man has never once left a door unlocked in the 30 years he's lived in that house, but the back door was unlocked. I stood there with my hand on the deadbolt for a long moment. Someone had either left in a hurry or someone had come in. I locked it, told myself Dad must have been distracted getting everyone ready for the trip. Went and made my coffee, tried not to think about it. Saturday passed. Slowly, I worked from home for a few hours, ordered food, watched TV. Normal things, ordinary things. The kind of things that make you feel like the world is exactly the size and shape it's supposed to be. But the feeling never went away. It sat in the back of my chest like a stone, heavy and cold and constant. The second thing I noticed was in the bathroom. Around mid-afternoon, I went upstairs to shower. When I pulled back the shower curtain, nothing unusual, but when I reached for my shampoo on the shelf, I noticed the bar of soap. It was wet, and I hadn't used it. Not slightly damp, wet, like it had been used recently. I picked it up and turned it over in my hands. There were fresh lather marks worked into the surface, the kind that only happen when you actively use a bar of soap, not just humidity from a shower running nearby. Someone had used my shower. I put the soap down very carefully. My hands were steady, but my mind was running through every possible explanation. My sister sometimes used my bathroom when hers was occupied, but she was in Minnesota. My mom occasionally grabbed things from my shower when she ran out, but she was in Minnesota. Everyone was in Minnesota. I was the only person who had been in this house, wasn't I? I went through the house room by room. Nothing looked disturbed. Nothing was missing. All the windows I checked were locked. The front door was locked. The back door, still locked, exactly as I'd left it that morning. I checked inside closets, behind doors, under beds. Nothing. I called my dad. Told him about the unlocked door and the soap, tried to keep my voice casual. He sounded confused, said he was absolutely certain he'd locked the back door before they left. Said the soap must have gotten wet from humidity. I let him believe that. I didn't want to worry him when he was 600 miles away at a funeral, but I went downstairs and pushed the couch against the back door before I went to bed that night. I fell asleep on the couch that night with the TV on, intentionally. I wanted noise. I wanted light. I wanted the most ordinary, comfortable, well-lit room in the house. I woke at 2:54 a.m. The TV was still on. Some late-night infomercial, the kind with aggressively cheerful hosts selling blenders. The room was washed in that pale blue light that TVs cast in the dark. And I realized what had woken me. The couch I'd pushed against the back door was no longer against the back door. It had been moved back. Not all the way, just enough. Just enough to clear the door. Just enough that the door could open. I sat completely motionless. I want you to understand what that moment feels like. When your brain catches up to what your eyes are showing it, and the two pieces of information slam together into a single, horrible understanding. Someone moved the couch while I was lying on it. Someone had been close enough to touch me while I slept. I didn't make a sound. I didn't move. I sat there with the blender infomercial playing in the background, and I thought very clearly and carefully about what I needed to do. My phone was on the coffee table in front of me. My keys were on the hook by the front door. The front door was 6 feet to my right. I grabbed my phone. I stood up slowly. I walked to the front door, unhooked my keys with 2 fingers, and I opened that door and walked out into the cold night air. I got in my car and I locked the doors, and then, only then, I called the police. 2 squad cars arrived within 8 minutes. I sat in my car and watched through the windshield as the officers went inside. Flashlight beams moved across the windows, upstairs, downstairs, back of the house. 15 minutes passed, then 20. When the officer came back out to speak to me, she had a look on her face that I will never forget for as long as I live. Not the reassuring look officers give you when they've checked everything and found nothing. The other look. She told me they'd found signs that someone had been in the house for an extended period, not just that night, for days. In the basement, behind the old water heater where nobody ever really went, they found a space that had been cleared out and arranged. A sleeping bag that didn't belong to anyone in my family. 3 empty water bottles, several food wrappers. The wrappers matched items from our pantry upstairs, things my mom had stocked before the trip. A small battery-powered lantern. Someone had come in some time before my family left, or in the 2 days the house sat empty, and made themselves comfortable in our basement. They had been there when my family was still home. They had been there the night I arrived. They had listened to me move around the house for 2 days. They knew my routine, and at some point on Saturday night, while I slept on the couch just above them, they had come upstairs. They had moved the couch, and then they had gone back downstairs. Music swells darkly before pulling back. The officer asked me if anything was missing from the house. I walked through with her and checked. Nothing was taken. Not the TV, not my laptop, not the cash my dad kept in a jar on his dresser. They didn't want our things. The back door showed signs of a pick on the lock. Subtle, professional almost, the kind that leaves barely any mark. They'd gotten in before my family left, or during those 2 empty days, and they had stayed. The police searched the surrounding area, checked with neighbors, reviewed what little security footage existed from nearby properties. They found nothing. Whoever it was, they were gone. Slipped out at some point after I fled to my car before the police arrived. They were never identified, never caught.